Nicole Zasowski, welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Love having you on Mom Life. And listen, I hear from a lot of moms, and I know you've heard this too, who can look across the street, across the church pew, whatever, and they see another mom and they think, man, I want her life, or that whole comparison thing. I can look at you and I can say, here's this beautiful woman with 3 very photogenic kids and an amazing husband, and you've written books, and hello, you're a marriage and family therapist, and I feel like you could fix like all my problems. You have all the answers. So, I mean, do you struggle with that as well, with that whole comparison thing?
I do. It's a daily practice to do something different with that, because I feel like the temptation is everywhere. I think the season where it was particularly difficult, where I really felt like my nose was pressed against the glass, looking in on a life that I wanted so badly and I couldn't have, was when my husband and I went through a long season of infertility that included 5 miscarriages in about as many years. So it just felt like the waves, as soon as I stood up, I got knocked down. And I've been disappointed, obviously, before throughout my life, but it was one of the first times where I thought, I can't fix this with my hard work. I can't fix this by being good. And I was so used to using performance and perfectionism as ways of making the life that I wanted happen. And I've since experienced, I do, praise God, have 3 children that I get to love in my home now, and I confront that over and over again as a mom. But that was one of the first times where I really recognized my tendency toward control, because performance and perfectionism are just fancy forms of control. And in comparison,
had I been in your shoes, I think I would have maybe like put up a wall or a guard around my heart. I just would want to protect myself from that disappointment and not want to get my hopes up. Like, how did you cope then?
What I noticed is that when my husband and I did encounter some breakthrough in our story, we did hear some good news. Our first son, James, was born. I noticed that I was hesitant to embrace the joy. I would hold it at arm's length.
Kind of suspicious.
Suspicious of the joy, afraid that celebration always came with a catch. And I was really grieved when I woke up one morning and realized, yes, I've experienced a lot of loss in my life. But a lot of the loss I've experienced has been my refusal to embrace the joy that's right in front of me. And so I did a deep dive into scripture. I did a deep dive into neuroscience research to understand how God designed our brains. And I learned that I'm not alone, that joy is actually the most vulnerable feeling we feel. Because when you hold something, it is automatically accompanied by the possibility of loss. And if you've been through pain or trauma of any kind, it can feel safer not to hold that joy at all than to hold something that might break. So I thought, no more. I don't want to miss out on my beautiful God-given life, because I am so busy trying to prepare for the worst. Think about where your eyes are. You're scanning your environment, looking for any threat to your joy. They're not up here seeing what is happening, what is God doing, how is he moving in my story, what might he do? You miss out on that thrill of hope that we have, the wonder and curiosity of what God could do.
Well, so often too, there is a gap between our expectations and our reality, and that can be hard sometimes for us as moms. And particularly when we look across the landscape and we see another mom who is, quote, living our dream. Maybe we want to conceive and she has 3 kids already, or she got the promotion at work that we thought we deserved, or maybe our husband travels for work and hers is always home and super helpful. Whatever it is, you're kind of going, wait, she's living my dream. How do you process that?
It's hard to watch your dreams play out on someone else's stage, particularly if they step on the toes of your own. Like, this is something that you've always wanted. And I look at that encouragement command to rejoice with those who rejoice, and it's hard.
That to me is one of the trickiest verses in the Bible. Romans, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. I think it's so much easier to come alongside a friend in her sorrow. Bring her a casserole, send her some flowers when she's grieving. but celebrate her, rejoice with her. How do you actually do that?
The story from the Bible that I never really paid much attention to. It's not a big dramatic story we grow up learning in Sunday school. But it caught my attention as I was sort of researching this. It's in Deuteronomy, and it's when the Israelites are so close to the Promised Land at this point in their journey that they can actually see it in the distance. And of course, Moses has been their leader this whole time. But because of his disobedience to God earlier in that journey, he's been told, you're not going to be the one to lead my people into the Promised Land. And so he goes up on this mountain. It's toward the end of their journey, like I said. And I love his honesty in this moment. He talks to God and says, can I please be the one? He asks him one more time, like, can you please have some grace?
I would.
Yeah, right. Have you changed your mind? You know, can I please be the one to enter the Promised Land, to lead your people in? And not only does God give an emphatic no, which is always hard for me to get a no, but I was really challenged and convicted by what God says next. He says, I want you to commission Joshua for the job that you would love to have for yourself. And what that taught me is that we are not just called to accept other people's joy. We are called to accelerate their joy. And so rejoicing with those who rejoice means that we play an active role in accelerating their joy. And that's really hard. But what I have learned, and this tracks with what I know as a therapist and I've learned about the brain, and I don't like this about the brain, but it is the way that God made it, is that we can think and act our way to a new feeling. We can't wait to feel our way to a new way of thinking and acting. So feelings follow actions. Actions rarely follow feelings.
So you can't wait to feel it, to feel good for your friend who just had the win. You got to step out and what? Send flowers? Like what are practical things that you have done in your own life?
I have pink roses and blue hydrangeas in my garden, and maybe that was God's challenge to me because we moved into our house and that's what was in the yard. I didn't plant them. And I have literally stood cutting pink roses for a baby girl that was born to my friend, or cutting blue hydrangeas
when you're
for
thinking,
a baby
I want
boy,
that,
when I would love to be in the position. And there will be those special friendships where you can be really honest about, this is hard, but I don't want to miss out on joining you in your joy. And I know that you could be worried that you're going to step on my toes in my grief by celebrating, and I could be worried that I'm going to rain on your parade by being sad when you're rejoicing, or we could do both together. And you will have those special friendships, and I would encourage you to be honest like that. I mean, just the other day, I'll confess, on this topic, I was talking with a friend who had shared something fertility related, baby related, and I just teared up. I didn't know I was going to do that. It was one of those where you're like trying to control your reaction, and it just comes, and I was in tears, and I was able to share with her, I'm so happy for you. And I'm just jealous of the ease. And I feel that part is hard. And she was like, I'm so glad you're willing to share that. And
you know, it makes me think of Christ with the sorrow and love flow mingled down, that song, you know, just because you can hold the hard and the good together.
Yep.
And we need to be comfortable doing that.
Yes, joining other people in their joy and their sorrow. And it can be isolating when we think we have to be living the same season to connect with each other.
Right. What's the fallout in our families? Because as women, everyone compares, you know, we all do it. But how does that play out in family life? Like, do your kids pick up on it? Talk about that.
I think it's really easy in motherhood. Certainly it's easy in other areas of life too, whether you're a professional and comparing your jobs, but I think there's so many landmines in motherhood to compare. You know that phrase, you know, measure twice, cut once?
Yes.
when you compare, you measure once and you cut twice. And I thought that is so true, because comparison, there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. So when I'm choosing to compare, I'm either tearing myself down where I can't see the beauty in my own life, or I'm sort of managing this feeling by looking for ways that I'm better than the other person, and I'm tearing my friend down, even if only in my own mind. And it demands a winner and a loser. And here's the real kicker. When I'm comparing, I can't learn from my friend. I certainly can't celebrate her and see the beauty in both of our lives, even if it's different. But I can't learn from her either, because to learn from her would be threatening to my own identity or security in my family. And yeah, our kids certainly pick up on that. You know, we're never going to be the perfect example. Our job's to point to Jesus as the perfect example. But if they never see us celebrating a friend, they'll never learn to celebrate and go into comparison.
And can there be a root of discontent as well,
Oh,
if
absolutely.
the child's always seeing mom wishing for something else?
Absolutely. It's hard to see the beauty in your own life when you are so focused on seeing it in somebody else. And it's hard for me to steward the gifts God's given me. You can't be in two places at once. So if I'm mentally imagining what life must be like in someone else's home, I'm not squarely in my home, able to steward what's in front of me.
Friends, I want to tell you about another resource from Focus on the Family made especially for parents, Age and Stage. This program provides all the resources you need, tips, tools, articles, blogs. It takes your children from when they're born all the way through adulthood, and all from a biblical perspective. You'll find the link in the description below. Now, back to the show. I know my children have watched other people get the position on the team that they wanted, or the role in the play that they want, into the college they hope, whatever it is. How can we teach our kids to champion their friends when they get the win?
There's a few different things that I think are helpful, and I think making it an open conversation is one of them. But I think having a posture in your home of celebrating in rhythm and not necessarily in reaction to good news or a reward for an accomplishment.
So it's more of like a lifestyle of celebration
Yes.
rather than okay, this is time to celebrate. It's your
Right.
birthday.
When celebration is a rhythm, it helps attach celebration more to personhood instead of simply performance. And so when their friend gets the position on the team, or gets into that college that they maybe really wanted to go to, being willing to lead by example and go first, because our kids won't know how to celebrate personhood if they only see us celebrating performance, or they won't know how to join someone in their joy if they only see us joining someone in their sorrow.
But do we also validate their
Absolutely.
grief or their hurt?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it's hard. And emotional health is not an absence of difficult feelings. It's naming whatever feeling you have as appropriate for the situation. It's appropriate to be disappointed. It might be appropriate to be discouraged, and helping your child steward that well. I love that word, stewardship, because it's not about stuffing it down and saying that feeling's wrong, nor is it about letting that feeling sit in the driver's seat of the car and take you wherever it feels like going. But it's about naming that hard feeling and saying, how can we steward this well? Yeah. It is going to be hard, but how can we be a part of accelerating that friend's joy? Because that's what changes my heart.
Okay, so Nicole, let's get gritty and practical about this. Like, what do I tell? What do I tell my child?
I think validating that feeling and saying, I know what that feels like to be so disappointed and to watch something you wanted happen in someone else's life. And I am with you, and I'm so proud of you. And let's think together about how we can bring some joy to that person and really help them celebrate that role. So what could we say tomorrow morning at the beginning of school to our friend who did get to receive that honor or have that privilege or was picked for something. What could we do to make them feel really good? What would you want to hear if that were you? What are your ideas? And here are a few of mine. Okay, so what's the plan? You know, and you kind of...
And that can even, just listening to you talk, it's like the joy bubbles up as
Yes.
they're dreaming and scheming for how to
Yes.
celebrate. And I think about Scripture's command to pray for those who persecute you, you know, love your enemies.
Yeah.
And not that this friend who won the award is the enemy, but I will say in my own prayer life, when I'm praying for someone who has something I wanted,
Yeah.
my thoughts toward that person become more
They shift.
positive,
Yeah.
and I begin to celebrate their win, and I begin
Yeah.
to want God to work in their life because I'm vested, because I'm praying for them. So even that,
Exactly.
encouraging our children to pray for their peers.
And I might even share, you know, what's really powerful for our kids is when they see us emotionally regulating our own selves. And so being able to say, I've learned that what changes my heart is actually using my hands to celebrate someone, doing something active for them. And I've learned that my heart will shift. And that doesn't mean that you won't still be disappointed,
Yeah.
but it will change your relationship with this person. And what do you want to do?
Nicole, thank you. That is such a good word. And Mama, if that's you too, there's a link in the description below. Just click that and you'll have access to a collection of prayers about some of these very topics. You can use those to pray for yourself, for your family, as you trust God to help shape you into that kind of person who can celebrate, who can come alongside your friends. So click that link, pray with us, hang in there, Mama. We're all in this together.